Thank you, GNU lecture series. Thank you, Siddiqui. I will be, the top. My topic is caste in Sikhi and Punjab, and with special reference to Professor Jodhka's writings, mainly two writings. One is Caste and Untouchability in Rural Punjab, and second, which published in EPW in 2002. Another one is Sikh Religion and Contestants Around Caste, which published in Religions 2024. These articles basically shows they explains that despite the anti-caste ethos of Sikhism, caste and untouchability persist in the religion through village, the segregation in the village, marriage practices, control on Gurdwara, and several other aspects. It also highlights, these articles also highlights Dalit Sikh assertions and their separate religious spaces. So throughout his writings from decades, I find Professor Jodhka questions the popular notions of both sides, those who thinks that there is no caste in Punjab or Sikhi, and also those who thinks that there is caste. He brings empirical evidences to prove that there is caste, and equally he brings some deep nuanced manifestations of the caste which is not so popular, such as he tries to find out the caste phenomena in the spaces where there are no separate gurdwaras of Sikhs, where there is no separate cremation grounds, and also where there is no direct manifestations of untouchability as it is seen elsewhere. Also, in specific reference to Punjab and Sikhi, he also does not fall into the notion of understanding caste with the lens of this binary of theory versus practice. His studies are importantly not only for academics, I think, as some of his writings are also being used for the state policies also. Much before this Swachh Bharat mission about the toilets for everyone in every household, I recently came to know about this thing, that after reading some of his writings, some good bureaucrats at Punjab government, they invited Professor Jodhka, what are the issues, major issues, and he pointed out that Dalit women are going because Dalit households, they don't have separate toilets in their house, they are going for open defecations. Somehow due to the patriarchal setups, men can somehow manage, but it is really difficult for women to go into the daylight outside. So his studies played a big role in policy formation of having toilets in the households, because it was specifically for the Dalits, because the upper caste households they already had. And second is also about the subclassification. He had already worked in early 2000 about this. Now I would briefly summarize these two papers which examines the social structure of caste in the Punjab, where the Sikh religious framework has been casteized in distinct ways despite its theological opposition to caste hierarchy. The dominant caste of this region, which is Jat, did not form part of foundational structure of the Sikhism, and none of the gurus belong to this caste. Their association with Sikhism is therefore not an original feature, but rather an outcome of social political processes that unfolded over the time. But it is equally interesting that this caste now dominates the social, political, and religious spaces of this area. Caste has historically been a central instrument in social relation of Punjab, though it has not been operated strictly along the lines which is in classical Varna system seen as many parts of India. Originating thousands of years ago and transforming through periods of Brahmanism, Islam, and colonial period, and also Buddhism. The caste identities which are there in the current form are significantly shaped during the colonial period. Throughout the process of codification, land distribution, revenue system, and likewise. If we see the social composition of Punjab, caste composition of Punjab has highest number of scheduled caste population in proportion to its overall population. It has around 33 to 35%. But equally, OBCs are also in these figures around 31 to 33%. And the general, which includes Hindu, Baniya, Brahmins, and also Jat men or caste, that is also around 31 to 33%. And 3 to 4% are the religious minority, which includes Muslims and Christians. The late colonial period, I think it played a decisive role in defining caste and Sikh identity in Punjab. There was this movement, Gurudwara reform movement, Singh Sabha Lehr, which was a very long, which was a movement which went up to for a very long year, very long time. Legislative measures such as Anand Marriage Act of 1909, it formalized Sikh marriage practices through independent of Hindu customs. So this was a major throwback between the Hindu customs and rituals to directly asserting a different kind of religion codes. Funeral rites increasingly involved the Panj Pyarejs in streets of Brahmins, while practice such as reference to, and also the notion around Ganga, it was also disappearing at that time, and the Shraddh rituals began to exclude Brahman priests. These reforms were further institutionalized through the Gurudwara reform movement, which sought to wrest control of Sikh religious institution and hereditary mahants. Agrarian policy is, as Punjab is largely seen as an agrarian region, agrarian policy also reinforced caste hierarchy. The Land Alienation Act of 1900, this act was this act actually designated some caste as agrarian caste, some as mercantile caste, and something like that. So it excluded that transformation, the transfer of the land rights to the non-agrarian communities. So many argues that this was done also because it was affecting the relation of landowning communities such as Jats because they were into trap of money lenders. But equally importantly, this act also excluded Dalits from getting land. Now I would like to directly come to the so there is a proper tragedy about how the caste and Sikhi identity gets. It was also encountering with the Hindu leadership, Hindu thoughts, and there was this article. This is a famous book by Khan Singh Nabha, which is Hum Hindu Nahi. It was in response to the Hindus explanation of how they consider Sikhism as their integral parts, and it was a major work of from the side of Sikhs. And also there was also influence of Christian missionaries also. It was also parallelly challenged by the Sikh thoughts. Baba Sahib Ambedkar, he also tried to join Sikhism. He also said there are evidences of several meetings, several interaction with the Baba Sahib sides and also the Sikh sides, where Baba Sahib also sent his son to Amritsar to have talks. But there are both sides of it. On the Sikh sides of Akali's leadership, they says that Baba Sahib was not fully convinced, and also there are also writing which said that they were badly humiliated, and they were quoted as said our Darbar Sahib, our religion might get polluted. There are also references like that. So now I am coming to these two particular articles, Sikh religions and contentions around caste, where he examines the fundamental contradiction between Sikhism's theological opposition to caste and its persistence with the Sikh social life. While Sikh scripture and institutional practices such as Langar Pangat outrightly reject caste hierarchy, the reality on ground tells a different story. Caste continues to influence marriage alliances, settlement patterns, electoral politics, and even religious life through the existence of caste-specific gurdwaras. Professor Jodhka argues that addressing this tension requires more than simply urging for this community to align practice with theory. Instead, we must critically examine how caste itself is understood. And he concludes this paper with these arguments that the challenge before us, therefore, is not to examine the value or validity of the Guru's message, but to recognize its potential as source of politically imagining a human future free of violence, hierarchy, and institutionalized humiliation. They could also help us to develop viable alternative to Eurocentric frames of modernity. And this is where my first question lies to him, that while developing such frames, why should we not re-examine the value or validity of theory itself? can we conceptually differentiate between rejection of caste manifestation by Sikhi to the annihilation of caste, effort towards annihilation of caste in the Sikhi? As you write about vertical hierarchy to horizontal jats, I would like to point out, does Sikh theory talk about encouraging intercaste marriages, equal distribution of resources, and likewise other things which you talk about materiality of caste? Even if it encourages communication, it has, I think it has less to do with the personal spheres. So overall, my question is, was Sikhi a reform or a revolution against the caste? He traces the historical evolution of caste in Punjab, where how it has different from Brahminical model of hierarchy, how colonial policies and British rule, including the caste census, revenue value system, and it all works. He also critiqued the textbook view of the caste as immutable pan-Indian Hindu institution, a narrative he argues that was constructed by Oriental scholars and colonial administration. While Brahminical texts like the Manusmriti provides ideological signals that legitimate hierarchy, he argues that the Sikh gurus offer counter signals that unequivocally reject such ascription-based discrimination. And this is also where I would like to pose another question, which is there among the Sikh scholars also. So these questions overlap with the Sikh studies and religious studies also. So there is a debate in Sikhism about considering the Bhagats or sons equal to the gurus. So there are gurus and this says that the Bhagats such as Ravidas, Kabir, Tukaram, and Dhanna. So these thinkers also contributed to Guru Granth Sahib. So what the popular Sikh arguments is that we cannot consider these philosophers as guru. We cannot say them guru, because guru were only tens. And this is where I want to ask this question, that what was the main contribution of Sikh gurus in regards to anti-caste thoughts in compared to the Bhagats, like how Kabir is contributing, how Ravidas is contributing, Tukaram, Dhanna, and all these anti-caste thinkers are contributing. Because when we are talking about theory and practice, this is the big question, that if they are not considering equal to the gurus, if they are not considering these Bhagats, these anti-caste reformers to their gurus, probably they are also missing out their thoughts on caste, and which are primarily anti-caste thoughts, and which are not just reject the superficial manifestation of caste, but they tries to talk about a Begumpura, a complete a world without sorrow. In the next article, in Caste and Untouchability in Rural Punjab, he presents an empirical study based on fieldwork conducted in 51 villages across Punjab's 3 sub-regions. And I think this is a very important contribution by Professor Jodhka in academia about caste in Punjab, because before this, there were we can say village ethnographies and several anthropological accounts, or biographical accounts, or fiction work, like say, although that are not completely fiction, that is inspired by their lived experience. But this was a very important work by Professor Jodhka, where he conducted empirical studies of multiple villages, and he kind of tried to show a sample of entire Punjab by conducting studies in all the 3 regions of Punjab. And he began by noticing, despite Punjab having the highest proportion of scheduled caste population in India, the region has largely been central to rarely been central to sociological theorization of caste. Partly because the caste structure has historically been less rigid than the Brahminical model prevalent elsewhere. This study finds that overt forms of untouchability have considered declined in rural Punjab. Dalits now routinely enter upper caste houses, access common source of drinking waters, and village shop with less restrictions. Traditional Jajmani relations have largely collapsed, and occupations one considers unclean, such as dealing with dead cattle, have become commercialized and detached from caste identity. So this is very much visible in the recent field works which are doing people, and I also noticed this in the 3 villages which I studied. So while I was preparing for this paper, I was trying to make sense of what I observed in the field, and I thought of that I couldn't make some argument, but thanks to Professor Jodhka that he has extensively covered Punjab and caste in Punjab, that I could rarely find any arguments which I can counter with the field view. So if anyone argues that Jodhka is not attached to field, they are wrong, and it is they are wrong in sense that they should see his work not just about not just one or two popular work. I think they should read his entire works. Now this paper also examines caste dynamics in modern institutions such as schools, panchayat and police. While government school in principle are caste free, the withdrawal of upper caste children into private school has led to government school being stigmatized at Dalit school. Further, it is also then become issue of segregation. Now I have some direct question other than his writings. While talking about materiality of caste, yes, you talk about land relation of land with Dalits in your several writings, not just about the specific to caste studies but also to the agrarian studies. But I would like to ask, why is land for Dalits is a not major concern in regards to reshaping caste in Punjab? I am asking this: why is land for Dalits is not a major concern when you are talking about assertion of Dalit in Punjab? In most of writing, I found it is mostly related to their separate religion, or how different it is in Talhan about the common Gurdwara. Second is that how caste in Punjab and Sikhi can be conceptualized from position of women or from the gender in relation to villages, because in recent village which I and Professor Jodhka have studied, in that village there is only one Gurdwara, and it was quite hard to find caste manifestation in very popular term which we found in the literature. So we started the women respondents in the village were very crucial, and I think in social relation of women in villages, women are more prone to intercaste relations, such as Dalit women going to work in the house and farms of upper caste, and who faces various kind of discrimination. Similarly, what we saw in our field work is that when we are making question about intercaste marriage, usually the male individual in the household, they replies that yes, it can work. But similarly, if you ask about women in the same household, they outrightly rejects because what they are saying, that they have more to do with they will have to more interaction with the woman. And similarly, in a question which has been less explored even in the political science, even in the gender studies, about question of sexuality, how sexuality helps to reproduce the caste identities within the rural spaces. Also, it is my personal question is about that, how was caste functioning in the pre-Gurudwara spaces in the rural, because Gurudwara in the village are comparatively very new phenomena. Much of the Gurudwaras have been formed after 1970s or 80s, and in the pre-Gurudwara villages, what we have found is that it was very the discrimination were very high. They were not allowed to enter into that particular religious space, that could be Samad or something like that, anything, and they were they were not allowed to for enter, and they offered a prasad. And last question about, because you are also dealing with the question of agrarian change, farmer protest. Just after a month after farmer protest, a Dalit house in Mansa, he was denied making a gate at the side of street where there are houses of upper caste, and it was completely backed by the farm unions, not the left-wing farm unions, but the non-left farm unions which have much to do with the higher land holdings. So these are my questions, and thank you very much everyone. Thank you very much Jashan, Shubh and Shivam for helping me in that.